Good morning, guys. It is the 19th of February 2022 and it's the morning after Storm Eunice here in the UK, where I am very aware that many of you are now without power in certain parts of the UK, down in North Devon and South Wales. I'm very aware. We have fared pretty well up here, actually, to be honest. But it has really opened my eyes, and probably the eyes of others from what I've seen on different groups and stuff this morning, of people who are very reliant on their freezers for food preservation. Now, I am someone who prefers to use as many natural or old-fashioned ways of preserving food as possible. The ones that use the least equipment, the least fuel, the least things that you have to worry about. I don't do pressure canning. I have done it once or twice, many moons ago when my kids were small, probably about 20 years ago. No, even more than that. 23 years ago. And I had a horrific accident with a pressure canner, to the point where I won't use a pressure cooker or a pressure canner ever again for as long as I live. And I do very well without. Don't have any accidents, haven't had any issues. I do water bathing rather than pressure canning. And if that's the way I will. These days, I kind of look at pressure canning and think, yes, okay, everyone's big on it and I get that, but you're only big on it in the US, okay? The rest of the world, we don't even sell them. We have to import them from the US, pressure canning kits and stuff like that. So it becomes a very, very huge expense for those people who can't afford it. Whereas water bathing, if you have a 10, 20, 30 litre pot, you can pretty much just do it, you know, without any extra very expensive equipment. So I prefer to do water bathing if I am going to do it. The other reason that I prefer water bathing, apart from the fact that I nearly blew my own head off, and my son got severely burnt, blew the ceiling through with the lid. It exploded right off it, and ended up having to get a new cooker, replace my ceiling, and yeah, it was not pleasant. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I ain't doing it again. And I know that there's a lot of systems that are a lot more modern and what have you, and stuff like that, but there are also safer ways of doing it, ways that are just as good, and that use less specialized equipment. Now, one of the things that you guys are finding that do a lot of pressure canning is that the lids and jars have just been really hard to find over the last 12 months, etc. And when you do find them, they're extremely expensive. With water bathing, you can actually reuse any jars and stuff that you've bought from the supermarket, as long as it has a sealable lid. So you can recycle your jars and recycle your lids. They're also easier to replace the lids. So you can go anywhere on eBay in the UK and Australia, and you can get jam jar lids, which is pretty much what we use. So yeah, I prefer being able to do that because I can recycle, reuse, and be a little bit more self-sufficient, eco-friendly, that kind of thing, because I'm not wasting the glass jars and lids that we already have in the house, and not having to go out and buy expensive equipment. So The other thing that I will be doing quite a bit of in the summer is actually sun drying fruit, veg, that kind of thing. And once we've moved, I'll be setting up a cold smoker as well, or even a hot smoker. Don't care, one or the other, but I'll be setting up a smoker and doing a few other things along those lines. Yeah, and bringing you guys along for the ride, because I think it's really, really important. Like, if you are worried about preserving your food, etc., learning how to do things the old ways at work, by the way. Everyone likes throwing around the word botulism, but actually botulism is almost non-existent, and as long as you make sure that everything is clean and done properly, there isn't actually a risk. So yeah, I love how people use words to scare other people into doing what they want to do, and companies are very, very good at doing that, and especially if they want to sell their product and the other products that go along with it. Okay, so yeah, botulism, E. coli, stuff like that. Yes, very, very scary words, but most people will, once they've learned how to make something, be very, very fine and safe doing it and won't have an issue with any of those things. You know, they're not things that come up very often, unless you have a dirty kitchen and you're not sterilizing your equipment before you use it. Then you might have issues, but honestly, 99.99% of the time you're not going to have an issue. The only times that I've ever had an issue is when I started using clip jars with rubber seals, and I did it for one time for one stream that I was doing, a live cooking stream I was doing, and unfortunately the seal didn't take, but it was a risk I took because I didn't have any other jars, and what I should have done was put them into containers for in the freezer, and it wouldn't have been an issue. But so 3 days later I ended up with green tomato curry sauce dripping off my pantry shelves. At that point, you know, it's fermented, it's gone, it's blown, it's just get rid of it. So you get rid of it, and as long as you've got a lot of kitchen know-how and you know the rules of looking after a kitchen safety, that kind of thing, you're not going to have an issue. So yeah, I will be using sun drying techniques. I will be using salting techniques. I'll be using a lot of old school food preservation techniques this year that I will bring you along for the ride for, that don't require certain types of electric and gas. You can, if in a push I had to do it over a wood fire, you could do it over a wood fire if that's what you needed to do. So yeah, okay, so there we go. Being organized, looking after yourselves, and not relying on things that are electric and gas for the bulk of your food preservation. Really, really important. So yeah, and we'll get through that. But yeah, that's why I don't use a pressure canner. Yeah, they scare me to death. They're like a bomb waiting to go off. And I'm aware that there's probably loads of you who watch my channel that are like, yes, but I use mine all the time and I've never had an issue. Well, yeah. If someone was going to have an issue, it's definitely going to be me. And the issue occurred because I took my eye off the ball for like 30 seconds while I was cleaning up, while the things were in the stove, and it was behind me, and my 2-year-old came in and fiddled with the temperature on the cooker, which built up the pressure too fast, and before I could do anything, it literally blew apart. So not gonna. No thanks. No thank you. I love you guys. I hope you guys have fared really well after the storm. I'd hate to see that if any of you have had any major damage or anything like that. From what I've heard so far, everyone's fared reasonably well. We are actually due for snow today, and there is another storm coming up this week called Franklin. Oh, so rude. So rude. Anywho, we all take it in our stride and we'll get it all done and we'll take care of each other. All right. So just look after yourselves. I love you guys heaps. Blessings.